Ciao!
Ciao! Hi, I'm Maria Dahl, and this is my partner, Eliza Perchinock. Today, we will be discussing one of the goals of the Sustainable Development Agenda industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Currently, Eliza and I are juniors at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, but have been studying abroad in Rome, Italy, at Gustolab International Food Systems and Sustainability. At U of I am majoring in communication with a minor in business.
I'm majoring in molecular and cellular biology with a minor in business and statistics. We are making this video with the information we have learned from our food and media class about how to publicize important sustainable goals to the public. The main purpose of this video is to address how the United Nations, along with the Roman government, intends on making further strides within industry, innovation, and infrastructure, specifically in Rome. As students studying abroad in this beautiful city, we are seeing for the first time the differences in environmental issues abroad and the way they are handled. Some key differences we have noticed between Rome and Chicago, where we live back home, are the ways waste is handled, where the food sold in our markets is sourced, as well as the differences in the sizes of many things, such as cars and houses. As abroad students, we have found ourselves humbled by these differences, and rather than approach them in a negative way and dismissing them as just weird things that Italians do, we would like to analyze them, along with other things, in context with our Sustainable Development Goal. So, in addition to explaining our findings to everyone else, our other goal is to learn about these environmental differences ourselves, and attempt to bridge our knowledge back home in order to give us a more sustainable life in the United States as well.
First, it is important that we start by defining the Sustainable Development Goal of industry, innovation, and infrastructure. According to the United Nations Environment Program website, the intention of this goal is to build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. This might still sound confusing, so we will break it down into smaller sections. The main goal regarding infrastructure is to facilitate and ensure sustainable and long-lasting infrastructure and development. Infrastructure is defined as the basic physical and organizational structures and facilities needed for the operation of society. So, everything from roads to waste management is considered infrastructure and therefore is a topic of interest for our analysis of the Sustainable Development Goal. The second goal regarding industry is focused on promoting sustainable industrial practices, including increasing resource use efficiency and a greater adoption of clean and environmentally sound technologies and industrial practices. An industry is defined as the product of goods or related services within an economy. One industry that we have looked into great depth here in Rome is the food industry. The final component that fits into the Sustainable Development Goal is innovation. Innovation is defined as the action or process of creating a new method, idea, or product. So, innovation ties into infrastructure and industry because in order to reach these location sustainable goals, innovation is absolutely necessary.
Many aspects of Rome's infrastructure are more environmentally sound than they are in the United States. Rather than huge cars and big houses, the Romans typically choose to live on a smaller scale. Many of them drive tiny smart cars and live in more modest apartments. One aspect of Rome's infrastructure that we have noticed doesn't seem to work in a way that aligns with our Sustainable Development Goal of sustainable and resilient infrastructure is their waste management system. Walking around the streets of Rome, it is common to see trash everywhere. It is spilling out and over the dumpsters, and cigarette butts line the street. According to The Guardian, on January 10, 2018, Italy could be sanctioned by the EU unless authorities in Rome and its wider Lazio region get to grips with the waste disposal crisis. Ever since 2013, when the main Malagrada landfill was closed, Rome has been shipping its waste to other areas of Italy, as well as Austria. It is shipped by train to Austria, where it is then burned to provide energy for a large community of houses within Austria. This is actually in line with what the EU wants, because according to BBC on April 23, 2017, this option fares better for the environment than to keep piling trash in landfills and increasing CO2 emissions. Even with the EU's blessing, though, this solution doesn't seem entirely sustainable. The big problem for Rome is that it has nowhere to put its waste, and that Romans produce more waste per capita than many members of other countries of the EU. For the garbage that doesn't get collected and shipped off to other locations, it remains on the streets for weeks, leading to the heaping piles of trash on many street corners. So, it looks like in terms of Rome could still use some work.
One industry in Rome that we have learned a lot about in many of our gustolab courses is the slow foods industry. The slow food movement is focused on using locally grown seasonal foods and promoting local traditional recipes. A lot of the food found in the markets of Rome is sourced locally from Lazio. One trip to the typical grocery store here, and we can already see the difference in produce compared to the United States. There are peppers here the size of our heads, and signs which tell us that fruits and vegetables are in season. Everything here just tastes a lot fresher. Unlike the US, there are not giant bags of frozen meat or huge cartons of non-cage free eggs. On one of our excursions, we went to a dairy farm just outside of Rome, in Lazio. At this dairy farm, we learned about how all the milk you find in Rome is locally sourced in Lazio. This farm talked about all the ways that they were attempting to become fully organic as well, which aligns with the Sustainable Development Goal of promoting sustainable industrial practices. By locally sourcing food and promoting organic practices on these farms that grow the food, the Roman food industry is increasing resource use efficiency and greater adoption of clean and environmentally sound technologies as well as industrial practices. There's less pollution produced from transporting foods for thousands of miles, and measures are being taken at these smaller local farms to reduce their environmental footprint. Sounds like something we should probably take back to the US.
A big part of increasing innovation is increasing access to information and communications technology by providing access to the internet. As of 2014, according to Italian figures, only 64% of households have access to the internet. This leads to a more difficult time in having an understanding of the rest of the world and how to take strides toward new creations, whether through technology or research. Connecting this digital divide is crucial to ensure equal access to information and knowledge, as well as foster innovation and entrepreneurship. One difference I have seen between the United States and Italy is the great push for technological innovation. For example, when you walk down the streets of any city center in the US, you will see posters for children's coding programs. Further, in the United States, a big part of the news is the new application developments created by young teenagers to further the leisure of everyday life. One stride I would like to see Italy take more initiative on is doing the same by pushing for the younger generations to explore the rest of the world and world history through the use of the internet. This greater understanding of the advancements of other nations will help spark creativity in the minds of young adults here, which will eventually help to expand the amount of revolutions created in Italy. Along with this, in the US, there's a great push for advancement in STEM fields. There are many programs that have been created for children, more specifically young women, to participate in this field and create research in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematical areas of work. With a greater focus and investment in this field comes sparks of imaginations and innovation in all aspects of life.
Investments in industry, innovation, and infrastructure are critical drivers of the economic development. With over half the world population now living in cities, mass transport and renewable energy are becoming ever more important, as are the growth of new industries and information, along with communication technologies.
Overall, we have come to the conclusion that exploring the industry, infrastructure, and innovation in a particular region aids in the understanding of the progression of the country as a whole. Through this project, we were better able to conceptualize the strides Italy has taken to become an increasingly sustainable country, as well as what could be done to continue its growth. As far as we have been able to see, throughout the years, Italy has made a push for sustainability through aspects such as the food industry and areas of infrastructure, yet still have work to be done in these areas as well.
Luckily, there are many ways that we, as students, can help further these aspects of Italy before, during, and after studying abroad. Before going abroad, students should research the region they are living in to see the country's views and efforts to maintain and grow its sustainability. If the country has already had a lot of systems in place to maintain sustainability, students should prepare themselves to make the adjustment into their new living habits. If not, Students should research ways or bring ideas from home of how they can first improve aspects of industry, infrastructure, and innovation within a small community. During their time abroad, we think it's crucial to speak to locals and those who hold positions in local governments to better understand what is and can be done, as well as their overall opinion of these three aspects. In our time here, we have found many organizations in Prati that aim to create better integration of the slow foods movement into the everyday lives of local Romans. We think that by participating in these groups, one can find themselves more in tune with the overall standing of the region, as well as the stances locals take on these aspects of sustainability. Finally, once the semester is over, it is important to take the knowledge gained abroad back to the United States, where, for example, slow foods isn't a large movement. This will help the communities in the United States raise appreciation for what the Italians have worked so hard to create. We can also bring some elements of infrastructure in the United States back to Italy. For example, researching our waste disposal methods more in depth and sharing them with the different organizations and environmental heads that we have met while being abroad will be a great help to Italy as a whole.
We know that our time abroad here is meant to find ourselves and understand the culture, but it is also a time where us students can learn how to give back to the communities, at home and in Rome. That being said, we can all use social media to express the exciting topics we have learned regarding infrastructure, industry, and innovation to help bridge the gap between our life at home and our life here. By sharing strides that each country has and will continue to make, the world as a whole can become a more sustainable and healthy environment.